Well, instead of a traditional staid year-end interview, I decided if we're going to sit down and get to know Rona Ambrose, maybe standing in the kitchen would be better. Every party ends up in the kitchen eventually, even the Conservative Party. Here we are. And we're drinking this odd concoction that you make.
It's celery, kale, grapes, green apples, chili peppers, and ginger. So it's spicy, yet sweet and full of goodness.
There's a lot of hot chili peppers in there.
I know. I've been waiting for you to start sweating while we do this interview.
So this is what keeps you on the go, though.
You know what? I love it. And I have it for breakfast and lunch, and then I eat a normal meal for dinner. But I can take it to all my meetings. I can drink it in the car. I can do it on the go. So I get all kinds of nutrients and good protein in this shake, and it's good. Good for you.
I do find it weird, but tasty.
Yeah, I know. I told you. I know.
Weird,
there's a
but
lot of
tasty.
chili peppers in here and ginger.
You've been interim leader since November, so let me do the quick math. 6 + 2, 8 months.
Already?
How are you enjoying it? Well, almost 9 months.
I know. It's been great. It's been great. I love it. I feel such a privilege getting to work with and lead this team of men and women who are motivated. They are committed conservatives. They love their country. I feel so proud to get to work with them.
You were around for the last time the Conservatives were in opposition.
Yeah.
Some of your colleagues were not. Some of them are brand new, but some of them were only ever in government, only ever in cabinet. I'm guessing that's an adjustment for the whole team.
It is. I mean, it was actually kind of funny because some of the people who had only ever been a minister, would call up my office and say, "Can somebody help write this speech for me?" I'm like, "Guess what? You're writing it." Because everything changes in opposition. You have way less resources. And it's a lot about self-sufficiency. So yes, people are writing their own speeches and they're learning to do their own research and rely on a lot of outside stakeholders for support to learn about things. But you know what? That's good because it means getting outside of your comfort zone, reconnecting with a lot of our constituencies, conservative stakeholders, the industry, business people, constituents. I think it's great. I actually think it's reinvigorated our caucus and it's given our men and women, I really see a kind of a renewed sense of conviction in the conservative ideology that they believe in, and I think it's been really good for us.
Well, I'm not going to ask you to comment on the leadership race, but I'm impressed with a lot of what I'm hearing coming out of that as the candidates and prospective candidates step forward and start talking about policy in very basic terms. Before we get into how the current government's doing, let's stick with your party. You guys are still out fundraising, the Liberals, even in opposition.
Yeah,
I know. We had a very strong convention at the end of May.
We had the best fundraising quarter in the history of our party, and it's the first time we've been out of government in 10 years. That is phenomenal. I'm sure no one has done that in the history of politics. So what that shows is that our people are engaged, they're supportive of what we're doing. And it also shows that they understand that our job as opposition is equally as important as when we are in government. And being a conservative voice, whether you're in government or in opposition, matters to those who care about issues like smaller government, lower taxes, strong public safety. And that makes me so glad to know that our members are still proud of the work we're doing, and even though we're not in government, that we have a really important voice in the national conversation.
I know that people have talked about, the Liberals have sunny ways, and so you guys have to do what you do with this smile and a different tone, but my Liberal friend Warren Kinsella loves to say opposition's job is to oppose, and he looks back to when he was working in opposition under Jean Chrétien, and they just said, no, we oppose. Is that the tact you take, or are you looking to build bridges, or how do you view the job that you're doing?
Well, Canadians said they wanted a different tone from us, and I think we delivered on that. I really do. People say they've changed their tone, but does that mean that we've been less tough on the opposition? No. We came out swinging, and we've been tough on the Liberals. We've held them to account on pulling out our CF-18s in the fight against ISIS. We held them to account on their complete lack of transparency in their first budget, the fact that they blew their promise for a balanced budget, the fact they blew their promise on their commitment to keep deficits to a minimum of $10 billion. We've held them to account on raising taxes on Canadians. We've held them to account on their naive I think, dangerously naive attitude about ISIS with our opposition motion on calling ISIS actions a genocide, which the Liberals refuse to support. So listen, we've been tough, but we've been respectful. We've even approached some of our work with a sense of humor. I think the opposition...
I've seen a lot of that in question period. It's been good.
And I've encouraged our guys to be respectful, be tough, be funny, but you can be just as effective. And we've been a very effective opposition.
I want to ask you about the genocide thing in a moment. That is very important to me. It's very important to the viewers, the listeners. People are upset about this.
Of course.
Is anything sticking to the current government? Seems like it's a honeymoon period. I mean, I'm going to raise a glass of juice.
Yeah.
You guys have, well, we did the ATIP and you guys saw our story and asked about it in question period. A minister's staffer expensing $17 for a glass of juice. That used to be a horrible thing that would, calls for ministers to resign over that. And they just laugh it and skate by it and make jokes about it. So does anything stick to these guys? You
know what? People expect Liberals to expense a $17 glass of juice. And they don't expect Conservatives to do that. And listen, we should be held to account, but every public office holder should be held to account when they're wasting taxpayers' money like that. The problem is the Liberals' approach to government is that they're entitled. They're entitled to taxpayer money.
$250,000 on furniture.
Almost $1 million on furniture. And they explained that away with, we needed to spend it because we had a bunch of staff we needed to house, as if there isn't enough office space in Ottawa to put up some new bureaucrats. So the problem is, this is actually what people expect of the Liberals. And it will take a lot more than that for Liberal voters to think these guys are doing a bad job. But I can tell you, every Conservative in this country and everyone who believes in respecting taxpayers' dollars is not impressed with that kind of attitude. So it's important that we, as a Conservative voice and the voice of taxpayers, hold them to account every single time they spend money like that.
We are relaxing in the kitchen, standing with Rona Ambrose. I'm leaning. It might be a bit of a height difference if you haven't noticed. On the genocide front, your motion, you were able to get the New Democrats and the Bloc to vote with you in saying that what's happening to Christians, Yazidis, and Shia Muslims is genocide.
It is.
But the Liberals say, until the United Nations tells us that it's genocide, we won't call it that. How do you react to that? I mean, that enrages me that they say, well, this is a legal question, so we can't comment on it. You and everyone else in Parliament are legislators that pass laws.
Right.
That seems lost on them.
You know what? It was disgusting. I mean, it was an embarrassing display that the Liberals, Canada has always been...
Kudos, though, to the four Liberals, Housefather,
Absolutely.
Erskine Smith, Ludwig, and Rezhnevsky, for coming forward and standing with you guys.
And interestingly, one of them is Ukrainian, one of them is Jewish, and one of them, has always taken minority rights very seriously. So we've got people that have a principled stance, maybe from their background or because they've been engaged in their own communities. They know what genocide looks like, and they've been active on those issues in their own communities. And good for them for taking a stand. But it was an absolute dark spot on Canada. I mean, Canada's always been the country that's out front defending minority rights in the world. And pretty much every House of Parliament in the Western democratic world has called what's happening to the Christians, whether they're Assyrians or Yazidis or Shia Muslims, have called it a genocide. And these guys couldn't do it. And they say it's a legal question. It's not a legal question. First of all, it's an issue of fact. But the other thing is, as legislators and public officials, it's our job to actually stand up and call things what they are and take a leadership role. And this is an issue, to me, it's an issue of moral clarity. And that they weren't able to discern that they have a role to play in Canada should be a leader on these issues. So it wasn't until it wasn't even the first report from the United Nations that called this genocide. There's been consecutive reports around the genocide.
But 2 days after your vote, there was a 40-page report that said it's genocide against Yazidis. So they say yes to Yazidis, but no to Christians and Shias.
Right. And so, you know what? It's a lack of principled foreign policy, and it's a lack of leadership.
They like to say Canada's back, and they keep going down to the United Nations and saying Canada's back. Well, if we have to wait for the United Nations to tell us what our policy is Canada back, or is Canada now outsourcing foreign policy to Geneva and New York.
I think that's what it means. I think it means Canada's back, letting the United Nations make our decisions. And it's the same issue, in the past when the Liberals were so lacked so much clarity on their position with Israel. I mean, I think, and now cozying up to Russia, cozying up to Iran, when there's a woman who's a professor of women's studies and women's rights, and she's not even an activist. As far as, from what I understand, she just talks about the rights of women in Iran, and she's now been jailed in Iran. And we're at the same time talking about warming up relations with Iran. So, it worries me that the Liberals talk about Canada being back. Really what it is, I think, is we're back now to deferring to the United Nations for all of our approach to foreign policy. And that's really too bad, because Canada has, I think, under Mr. Harper, had a very good reputation on being principled on foreign policy.
The latest thing, let me just pull over this book here.
Yeah.
This is Bill Morneau from 2012, The Real Retirement.
How people change.
And he says that all these fears about a pension crisis are overblown. He says, right, the first chapter is called Crisis, What Crisis? Now he's got this deal for an enhanced Canada pension plan. I don't think most Canadians would object to helping those in need, but those at the bottom aren't going to be helped by an enhanced CPP.
No, they're not. They're actually going to hurt the people who need money in their pockets the most. So it's a tax on Canadians. We still don't know how much it's going to be. We just know it'll be thousands of dollars a year taken off the paychecks of Canadians. While at the same time, they canceled tax-free savings accounts, or half of what we used to be able to invest. And we know from statistics that actually lower income and even students were investing in tax-free savings accounts. So they remove private savings vehicles that are beneficial in exchange for a CPP enhancement, which really is a tax on the 100% of Canadians, when, as you say, the problem is actually specific to a certain part of the population. And their argument is, well, millennials just don't save, so we have to force them to save. Well, you know what? You don't actually make a CPP contribution unless you have a job. The problem that millennials are facing is a government that is going to put us in the poorhouse, tax businesses and tax job creators to the point where actually less jobs will be created, less entrepreneurs will want to start a new business. And so it's the job issue that I'm concerned about. Millennials won't have to worry about retirement because they're going to have to worry about having a job before they ever pay any CPP.
Is it simply a difference in viewpoint? The government that you were part of brought in the TFSA, increased the TFSA, worked with small businesses to bring about the pooled pension plans that would allow a small business to offer these things. You had a viewpoint of, you can do this, Canadians can do this. They have a viewpoint of, we have to do it for you.
It's always that way, right? I mean, the Liberals love to talk about that they like Canadians, but they really don't have a lot of faith in them. At the end of the day, their ideology is the government will fix everything for you. And what that does is it actually... what I see when I look at that is it means that you don't trust Canadians. We see the ingenuity in every single Canadian, and we put our trust in them. We let them keep some of their own money so they can actually start a new business. They can be an entrepreneur. They're the ones that are going to come up with the next greatest invention. It's not going to be governments. Governments don't create jobs. Canadians do. And if we suck all of that incentive away from every individual Canadian, we take away all their economic freedom to the point where they don't have money to invest in a new business. There's no incentive to start a new business. Who's going to create the jobs for the next generation? Who's going to create the jobs for the millennials? So I worry about it because with the Liberals, it's all about, every answer to every problem is more government, more taxes, more regulation, more red tape. And that's not the solution. Bigger bureaucracy is not the solution. What comes with that is inevitably more waste. And it's going to cost our millennials more and more money, and there will be less job creation, less economic freedom, less individual liberty. So I think, that's a message for young people, is that this government is going to burden you to the point where there will be a lot less freedom for you, even on the sharing economy. I mean, the sharing economy is really about the ultimate economic freedom. It's less regulation. It's a platform where anyone that has a computer can start a business.
You guys put this place up on Airbnb.
Yeah, that's right. But the sharing economy is a perfect example. And what are the Liberals talking about doing? You know, whether it's Mayor Gregor Robertson in Vancouver who wants to shut down or regulate Airbnb so people can't actually make money off their own possessions and their own assets, or the Liberal government starting to say, well, how do we regulate this new economy like the conventional economy? Well, here's a thought. Why don't you regulate the conventional economy less? Why don't you use the sharing economy as an opportunity to streamline regulations and make all businesses regulated less? And maybe there will be an opportunity for more businesses to flourish. But their immediate reaction is overtax and overregulate, overburden. And you know, we see what happens when we constrain personal liberty and economic freedom. All you have to do is look at Europe. Venezuela. I mean, it's so this is the track they're going down. And so that's why I think it's really important that in 2019, we have to have a strong alternative to the Liberals.
Life isn't all about politics. Let me ask you before we're done. You're heading out of Ottawa soon. You're going to head back home to Edmonton. You're going to take in the barbecue circuit, Stampede. What does the summer look like for Rona?
Well, I'm going to be, you know, JP is a rodeo guy, so he knows everybody at the rodeo. So we will go to the Stampede and say hi to the Cowboys. I'll be in Edmonton visiting constituents. I'm going to be out and about. I'm heading to Quebec this week. I'm going to be in Quebec for 4 days out in the regions. We're going to be in Atlantic, Canada. We're going to be everywhere. So I'm going to just be out saying hi to Conservatives and thanking them for their support. We have a great party, and they are supportive of our MPs, men and women from across this country, and I want to thank them for supporting each and every one of our members of Parliament, and thank them for supporting Mr. Harper for all these years and to continue supporting our party. They've been fantastic to us, and I want to tell them that we're going to keep working hard for them and be the voice of conservatism, be the voice of taxpayers. And I also want to go into the regions where we lost seats and earn back the trust of those people, because in Atlantic Canada, we didn't win any seats. And when I go there and I talk to people, I know our message resonates with them. I know they want to see better job opportunities, less taxes, a better, safer environment for their kids. And so we need to earn back their trust. And that's what we do when we go into regions like that, is really make the case and ask people to have faith in us. And to hopefully look to us in 2019. All
right, Rona Ambrose, thanks so much, and
cheers.
All the best for the summer.
You too.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of The Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.